Sage Wanderer here, coming at you from my cabin down by the creek. Today I want to talk about the amazing reforms that Donald Trump is implementing in our country. Never before in the history of our republic has any president taken on such a huge reform project. Arguably, the New Deal of FDR or LBJ's Great Society. Those were times of great reform. But the end result of those reforms were huge government projects that grew the size of our government exponentially, creating the bloated mass of waste and fraud that we currently deal with, that we currently refer to as the United States government. And Donald Trump has put together a team of superheroes who are determined to do away with waste and fraud and unchecked government growth. For the first time in U.S. history, we may see our United States government shrink considerably. So in this video, we're going to talk about some of the programs, some of the orders, some of the directives that Donald Trump is implementing that will bring about one of the greatest changes this nation has ever seen. But before we get into any deeper, I want to encourage you to support this channel. Give me a thumbs up, share the videos, check your subscription, make sure you're subscribed. And I want to thank all of you who support this channel financially. This channel is funded exclusively by viewers like you. Thank you so much. Your kind donations keep the lights on here in the cabin and keep these videos coming your way. So if you consider these videos to be educational, entertaining, or enlightening, or inspirational, please consider becoming a financial donor and making sure that these videos keep coming your way. Thank you. So the list of things that Donald Trump has implemented in the first 5 or 6 weeks of his presidency is mind-boggling, and it's enough to make your head spin. You know, he had 4 years to come up with a master plan, and we're seeing it implemented before our very eyes. The sheer speed and velocity of the implementation of this plan is enough to set his opponents back on their heels. They don't know what to do. James Carville was recently quoted in saying the best thing they can do right now is just play possum. They're going to play dead because they can't keep up with all of the massive changes coming their way. So everyone's kind of been focused on Elon Musk and Doge, but there's a lot of other stuff going on that is world changing. This team of superheroes that Donald Trump has put, it reminds me of the Super Friends on Saturday morning. This team of people in his cabinet that he has put together to implement these changes is such a wealth of talent, and it's from both sides of the aisle. You have Democrats and Republicans on the ticket. Well, people that used to be Democrats that left the Democrat Party, like RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, are now part of this Make America Great Again team that is the cabinet of the United States president. And these aren't people who were perfectly suited to continue the waste and the corruption. They weren't people from the inside who were used to how one hand washes the other and how you scratch my back and I scratch yours and how we all get rich in the process. These are outsiders. And this was the biggest argument against them during the confirmation process, is that they're not from the inside. But people from the inside don't want to dismantle the system that's made them fat. You know, the government of the United States has been growing since day one. We've been in debt since 1835. Andrew Jackson, Old Hickory, was president the last time we were not in debt. And Donald Trump has got some lofty goals. And really, it's nothing more than other presidents have promised and then failed to accomplish. A lot of presidents promised to root out corruption, find wasteful spending, shrink the size of government, reduce taxes, and balance the budget. But we've not had a balanced budget since 1999. And that was Bill Clinton. You can say a lot of things about Bill Clinton, but he knew how to balance a checkbook. And Donald Trump has found some very interesting and inventive ways to do just that, to balance the checkbook. Tariffs, everybody's talking about tariffs, 25% on steel and automobiles. This is going to have a long-term effect on our country, on the economy, and not necessarily on the government, but the government is being changed as well through the actions of Doge and the reforms coming to the FBI through Kash Patel. And he's also been named the temporary head of the ATF. So maybe we'll be going after international gun smugglers instead of people who bought something off the internet that they're not supposed to have. Is that a solvent trap, or are you making a silencer? And they send people out to your house and knock on the door and ask you questions about your Facebook posts, right? About the gun they saw in one of your YouTube videos. And they really ought to be out dealing with the real criminals. And once again, the people that Donald Trump chose for his cabinet aren't people who are going to continue with the status quo, but rather they're going to tear down and reconstruct these programs and make them more efficient and streamlined and focused on the thing they're supposed to do. There's been a lot of uproar about Elon Musk's email that he sent out to millions of U.S. government employees, just asking them to do a simple thing. Just give me 5 bullet points on what you did last week. And of course, you would have thought that that they were calling for the end of our republic, right? The overreaction to that was immense, and over 1 million employees refused to do it. And that's crazy because I haven't had a whole lot of like corporate type jobs, but I was a staff minister at a very big church, and very big for Texas. Even it was 300-400 people, a sizable church, $1 million budget. And I was on staff there, and once a week we went on Tuesdays to the bishop's office, and we had to sit down. And not only did I have to tell him the things I did this week, but I had to align them with the goals that I set last week, which he kept in a little notebook. So he could look down, and if I skipped one of those, if I was supposed to do 5 things and I only did 4 things, he wants to know why I didn't do the 5th thing that I promised last week I would do the coming week. So I was held accountable, and not just me, everybody on staff. We sat in a big circle and everybody took turns talking about their week and the things they accomplished and the things they were supposed to accomplish and what they won at and what they failed at. And if you've ever had a corporate job, that's not an uncommon thing. And so Elon Musk is simply taking what the rest of the world does now and applying it to our federal employees, and you'd think it's the end of the world. And but that's where a lot of focus is on, is all of these firings and how we're going to trim potentially $1 trillion out of our annual budget that's just spent on malarkey, the stuff from the USAID, all the grants to foreign countries. It's kind of a racket for anybody involved in politics. Stacey Abrams used to be the head of the DNC, and under the Biden administration, she was given a $2 million grant from the U.S. government for her little environmental nonprofit. You see how that could work, that you could get a couple $1 million and write yourself $1 million salary. See, that's what people don't understand. They think that people who work for nonprofits don't get paid. No, trust me, everybody that works at a nonprofit gets paid, right, to run the nonprofit. And the biggest paycheck usually goes out to the president of the nonprofit. So Abrams could set herself up with, say, $500,000 salary over the next 4 years and never do a thing, and probably apply for another grant and receive it if somebody else was in the White House other than Donald Trump. And so what we've had is a bloated government that started out small with the founding fathers, but immediately fell into debt in 1835. And we've been accumulating more and more debt and growing the government bigger and bigger and raising the taxes more and more over time on the average Americans, till some people pay up to 50% of their income back to the federal government just for the right to exist here instead of prison. And so you've got to reduce the size of government. You have to make this behemoth a lot smaller. And the way you do that is by eliminating these ridiculous foreign grants, eliminating a lot of the money that goes to nonprofits, which just ends up as salaries for powerful people who used to be in government. It's a big racket, and Doge is uncovering that. But also we've got corruption in our law enforcement. The FBI is notorious for knocking on people's door and asking them about their post on Facebook. And I think people are tired of this. We want them to go after bank robbers and kidnappers, and that's what the FBI was designed for. And if they won't do that, they won't stick to the plan, then why are we funding them? Why do they even exist? Why not turn those powers back over to the states? You know, the FBI was created at a time when states didn't really have a communication network. They really weren't talking to each other. But now in the internet age, I don't think we need the feds to bust nationwide or interstate crime. I think that the states can communicate with one another. At best, we just need a communication device that works, and we can replace all of the FBI. And Donald Trump has put this super team of super friends together, and they are all working to change America, not just right now, but forever. That this is the biggest reform of government since potentially the New Society by LBJ, and the what's the other one, the New Deal by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that brought us out of the Great Depression. That was the last time we saw anything on this scale. Everybody promises to shrink government. Everybody promises to lower taxes. They campaign on it. But this is the first time anybody has ever acted like they're actually going to do something. And this change isn't going to just change us now. It's going to change us for generations to come. And I hope once they tear it down and rebuild it, they will put safety measures. They will put checks and balances in place to prevent us from ever getting this far in debt again, prevent us from ever having an unbalanced budget again. And so the attempt by Donald Trump is not just to balance the budget, but to pay off the debt. Nobody's even thought that was possible. And Donald Trump just announced a method where it might easily be done. He announced the creation of a new thing called a gold card. We know what a green card is. This is a gold card. See, we've been giving green cards away. We've been, it's more of that corruption. Help this government official is going to help my cousin get a green card, right? And there's all of these loops and hoops and stuff you have to jump through to attain a green card. But ultimately, they're more or less given away. And Donald Trump's like, why are we giving this away when we could sell it? Now, we're not talking about selling citizenship here. We're talking about selling the right to live and work in this country. And he's offered the gold card, which can be purchased for $5 million. And his argument is, if anybody can afford this, who has $5 million, chances are they're going to be bringing investment money into the country. They're going to be bringing businesses into the country. They're going to be hiring employees and paying a whole lot of taxes into the system. And if you do the math on this, if he does 1 million of these, that's $5 trillion, which more than covers our $1.8 trillion budget deficit that we're under for this last year, for 2024, for this year. But would also allow us to go with the same amount of spending, even if we didn't cut a dime, for a couple more years, right? Just on the money we would get from 1 million people purchasing the gold card to come here and live and work as a resident alien in our country, a legal immigrant. And he promised that would also be a pathway to citizenship. And so Donald Trump is coming up with some very different ideas on how to raise money, how to prevent overspending, how to lower our budget. He isn't official yet, but he's working on a deal with both China and Russia to all agree to cut our defense spending in half. He's saying, look, you spend more than we spend more, then you spend more and we spend more. None of us need to be spending money on this. We need to work towards peace. We need to stop this endless acquiring of weaponry and building this behemoth military-industrial complex. Nobody wants that. We really would rather have economic growth. So why don't we just all agree, all three of us, we're the ones we're worried about. We're the ones that we're building to prepare in war for each other. Why don't we just all agree to just bring it down by half? So Donald Trump is on the pathway to cutting our military spending by half without putting us at a disadvantage against our major enemies and potential enemies, by getting them to agree to put down half their guns as well. And I think it's brilliant. It's thinking outside the box. It's a new approach. We have so needed someone to come in and tear this whole thing down and rebuild it in a creative way, because the broken, bloated, government taking half of everything that everyone earns and growing more powerful, and the bureaucracy and the deep state getting more and more authoritative and more authoritarian in their thinking. And we're way past time for this to have happened. Everybody promised it. Bush promised it. Reagan promised to end illegal immigration and seal the border, and then he gave all of the foreign nationals who were illegal in the country amnesty and citizenship, with the promise that he would close the borders and we would never have a problem with illegal border crossings again. Of course, that lasted until about 2 minutes after he got out of office, and then borders wide open again. Nobody's watching the door, right? It's like having a concert and nobody's collecting the tickets. Okay, everybody wants to come here and see the show. Nobody wants to pay. Everybody wants in for free. They want to just walk in through the fire exit. And that's been going on for generations in this country. And finally, it looks like Donald Trump has closed the border, gotten help from Canada and Mexico, both financial and in the form of military help, to seal these borders, bring us to an all-time record low of illegal immigration. And instead of giving all of the illegals that are here amnesty, he's starting by deporting all the ones that don't deserve amnesty and sending them home. And eventually he'll work his way down to where there will probably be some amnesty for people that came here illegally but immediately got their life together and are productive members of society. And there's quite a few of those, don't get me wrong. Not all illegal immigrants are deadbeats. Some of them are business owners. Some of them are entrepreneurs. Some of them are, well, as the left likes to point out, some of them pay taxes, even though they're here illegally. They're paying it on somebody else's social security number, I guess. But nonetheless, we've got real change possible now, and we can find new and creative ways to fund our government with the hopes, I believe, eventually of ending the income tax in the United States. Hopefully we'll replace it with this combination of tariffs, selling green cards, cutting the fat and the waste in spending, making our government smaller and more efficient, and also we might have to put up a small sales tax. You should be taxed, if you're going to be taxed, on the money you spend, not the money you make. That means you're motivated to make money and save it and less motivated to spend it. When you flip it around the other way, you're not motivated to make it, because the more you make, the more you pay in taxes. And with the new system, the more you spend, the more you pay in taxes. So it would cause the American people to have a savings once again. They say most people don't have enough savings to endure a $1,000 emergency. And that's not the way it should be. Everyone should have some money put back for a rainy day, but it's impossible when they're taking half your income in taxes. So we're going to end this tax on income, replace it with a small sales tax, a gradient scale, so the stuff that is required for the common man to live is not taxed or very little taxed, and the luxuries are taxed higher. We're going to, he's made deals with foreign companies, and American companies that have been doing all their business with other countries, like Apple, just agreed to come home to America with some of their manufacturing and business, and they committed to $500 billion in direct payment back to or investment is what I'm looking for, a $500 billion or $500 billion investment in the United States. And the same thing with what we're doing in the Ukraine war. He's ending that war in Ukraine. I'm going to do a video about it in detail here probably this week or the early part of next week. But one of the things he did was demand from Ukraine that if we're going to protect you, if we're going to be the guys looking over your shoulder, if we're going to be big brother, then we want half of your rare earth minerals that you have there, and then we'll have some stake in your country to protect you and to work on your behalf. And so Donald Trump's pulling $500 billion out of Apple, $500 billion out of Ukraine. It just keeps getting better and better. He's earning money, cutting spending, and changing the way we collect money and run our government. And it's the biggest reform in the history of the Republic if he's allowed to pull it off. And I hope he can get it all done in 4 years. At this pace, He probably can. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Do you like the idea of lower or zero taxes? Do you like the idea of, instead of letting people in for free, we only let the people in who already have some resources and can afford to purchase a gold card to come into this country? Tell me what you think of that in the comments. How are they doing? What's going on with our government? Are you happy? Leave your comments. We'll see you next time.